love to hand it over to you, Cynthia. And I've got my slideshow of images that you have shared with us. So I'll be giving a presentation of that, but let me know when you'd like to cut to that.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Kristen, and hi, everybody. Thanks for joining tonight. I saw the invitation to do the studio tour and thought this might be a good opportunity, obviously, to get to know more people at the Seattle Metals Guild, but also to solicit feedback. It seems that we're always in some perpetual state of motion in our studios. We're always reorganizing, always redoing to get a better, more efficient flow. And I've got a couple of places where I'm hanging up a little bit. That said, Kristen, if you want to go ahead and start, while you're queuing it up, I can say that I work my jewelry out of my garage. Um, my husband, bless his heart, I have to give a shout out to him. He's a mechanical engineer and he's done a lot of the work building the cabinetry, the steel tables, all the benches that I use for my work.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very fortunate. So if you think about a double car garage, I am in one half of that, and in kind of the oval shape is how I have all my stations set up. Um, in the slide right here, you can see that primarily I am a stone setter fabricator. I tend to work large. I like statement pieces. You can go ahead and take it forward one.
Sure.
And that's probably a pretty good recent example of my work. I like to mix and match a lot of different kind of materials. And the latest thing that I brought into my studio just in the last few months has been enameling. So one of my hitch points is trying to figure out where in my space I make space for that. You can go ahead and keep going, Kristen. Thanks.
Oh, beautiful.
Little rutilated quartz adjustable ring. And then I
Yeah,
think
and may I suggest that we make this conversational and interrupt as it makes sense with questions or comments? Does that work for you?
oh, yes, please. That'd be grand. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. I'm fascinated to learn that the introduction of enamels is going to take a lot of thought in terms of how to make that work. I'm not an enamelist, and I understand there are a lot of, with each of these skills, there are a lot of specific tools and processes that come along for the ride. And I'd be curious to learn what you've had to, you know, do away with in order to make room for that, and how much space it's taking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or push into the other side of the garage. Set it
I
up
was going to
and
say,
take
you
it
got
down
a
and then
two-car
set it up and
garage.
take it down.
Jeff, my husband, bless his heart, he took his gave up his half of the garage and took it all out to the shop he has out back. But I'm about to lose, I think, the half of the garage that has my car in it. So we'll see how this goes.
Priorities. You got your priorities, right?
That's right. That third slide that was just up a moment ago, that lapis lazuli with the brass, that was a piece that I sent in for nonprofit auction last year that sold.
Wow.
Yeah,
Is that lapis lazuli?
yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. I love that stone. I'm really kind of sad that I sent it in for the auction. I'm wishing I would have kept it for myself, but c'est la
And
vie.
what's happening here?
That is actually textured brass.
Oh, that's
Wow.
beautiful.
Yeah, that was domed and then tab set into sterling.
Nice.
And I love the
Nice.
setting on the lapis lazuli too. It's very unique.
Thank you. I do too. I'm
Yes.
a big fan of pedestal setting, and that I really, it appeals to me. I like that a lot. But that said, let's
Tell
go.
me what you mean by a pedestal setting.
Um,
I don't know that term. Is it?
I'm not sure I'm going to be
Mhm.
able to explain this properly, so please jump in.
Uh-huh.
I'm looking around to see if I've got a stone. I don't right in front of me. But the
Hmm.
stone is actually in the cab in particular, it
Hmm.
is set up on top of, say, rectangular wire on the edge, and the rectangular wire forms the base. And sometimes you can double up on that rectangular wire and create, layered pedestals. And
Hmm.
then on the sides of the rectangular wire, you can solder in your prongs and have them come up over the stone. So you've almost got a beautiful framing on the back as much as you do on the
Hmm.
front.
Mhm.
I hope
Thank
that
you.
makes sense. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wish I could see it in person.
I
All
do
right.
too. Whoever got it, jeez. Oh,
Can
okay.
I
So
ask you about what you're going to be doing for ventilation for your enameling? Because I'm just about to set up my space, and that's the one thing that I don't know how to go about and how worried I should be or not. So any thoughts you have, I would so appreciate that.
I will be happy
It's
to show you. One of the slides that I've got actually shows my vent system.
Oh, fantastic.
okay. When we get to that slide, we'll
Yeah.
talk about it.
Sorry for
Okay.
it.
That's all right.
No,
Don't let me
no.
forget. But the other thing that I should note is being in the garage. Now, granted, I'm in Eastern Washington and we get the extremes in weather here. We get a lot of snow, we get a lot of sun. But when we're not in the extremes of weather, I have the luxury of being able to open the garage door and open the windows. So I get great cross ventilation in here. But
Mm.
still, you ask a very good question. So when I get to the ventilation I use when I can't open things up, well, I'll show you what I've got.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is my main bench area. I just in the last few months got rid of my traditional jeweler's bench and switched everything over to this butcher block cabinetry area, and I am very happy with this. This worked out well for me. The two rolling pieces or rolling cabinets that are on either side have provided me with a ton of tool storage. I think this is the first time in the years that I've been doing jewelry that I actually have all my bench tools that would be used in this scenario right at my fingertips. And I'm very happy.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So if you have this kind of an opportunity, I highly recommend it. Let's go ahead and circle around to the right. I think the next one should be the brazing bench.
Mm.
So as I'm sitting at my bench, if I turn to my right, this is where I do all my brazing and soldering. This was something that my husband built for me. I've got three different sizes of torch that I use here. The big one on the left, to the left of the bench, is what I use when I'm melting down silver to make ingots or wire. And
Nice.
then I have a smaller acetylene and the really small little torch that's running on oxyacetylene.
So what is the large one burning?
Also oxyacetylene. It runs very hot.
And
Wow.
what's your countertop on that?
That's an aluminum block on top, and
Oh,
Wow.
the black right below that is just wood.
okay.
And then there
And you've got
behind
ventilation.
I do. I've got a little bit of ventilation right there. In the cabinet on the right-hand side toward the bottom, there Jeff put in a fan there that actually sucks out through those ventilations behind and then through a vent that's behind the bench in the garage wall. It wasn't super strong, and so I asked if we could augment it, and that's the big looks like the worm from Dune.
Yeah.
On the right hand side, I've got a piece of plastic over the front of it because in the wintertime, cold air can get in through that and it's a little bit drafty. But that's actually a high-speed bathroom fan connected to a dryer hose that goes right out through a second opening in the garage wall, and that one's got some real power to it. Because there is a little bit of not tension, but the ability, I've got the ability to move that worm face, for lack of a better descriptor, fan face, from this bench where it picks up all my fumes from soldering to, next slide, this field table, which is immediately adjacent. The space between the left side of my kiln and that bench that you just saw on the prior slide is about 24 inches.
Okay.
And
so you can move your ventilation.
I can
is that what
move
you're
my
saying?
ventilation, yeah, to either side. Now, is that great ventilation for enameling? It's okay. I think I could probably do better if I wanted to put my mind to it. I do have an attic space above me, so going up through the ceiling, I'm not sure that would work. I probably have to go up to the roof of the garage and then come across the ceiling to go out if I wanted to go the next step. But that's what I have right now. I hope that answers the ventilation question.
Thank you.
But unless you're using lead enamel, that should be adequate.
I don't know.
Um,
I mean, enamel is pretty dusty and it's glass.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't have the great setup for my enameling, but I do have a pretty heavy duty exhaust system, the kind you can roll around. You can put it to your bench and it catches everything. And that's great because it just immediately sucks out rather than sucks up. If you're going to do anything, ideally you want to have it go away from you, not up. So that's my humble opinion. I'm a glass
Yeah,
person.
which
I'm
you've
very
got going
paranoid of
on
glass
really nicely
dust.
right here.
Yeah.
I mean, something
Yeah.
like what you have right there, you know, that on the back of the bench there, that's pretty close to ideal. But there's some good stuff online too. So
Yeah.
Cynthia, I forgot to ask, where are you located?
Oh, I'm sorry. I should have said. I'm just outside of Spokane to the east side in a little community called Newman Lake. I'm just a stone's throw away from the Idaho state line.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think I don't know if I can speak for others, but I could only dream of having so much space. It's just amazing.
yeah.
you've got every tool known to jewelers in there too. I can
Yeah,
see.
yeah, let alone the actual equipment. Yeah,
Dang.
but it's really lovely.
I've been very fortunate to bump into a couple of jewelers in this area who were either retiring or just downsizing studios and been able to find a lot of things secondhand.
That rolling
Nice.
mill is like enviable. That's
Mhm.
Oh my
Pretty
God.
serious.
Double decker.
That's one I splurged on. That was, yeah.
but that's fun to move around.
Yeah, it's a delight. Thanks.
So wait, this is a table on wheels that's also not on wheels? Is that what's happening here?
It is on wheels and it has table legs. Another one of my husband's designs. It's steel
Neat.
and it is heavy. I
That's
mean,
awesome.
Has to be to
extremely so.
have to be able to support that rolling.
Yeah. So on the legs that come down to the ground without the wheels, they're the little stands on that you can screw up and screw down. So we drop it down onto the wheels when we need to move it. And then when we've got it in place, we bring those screws down and it lifts the wheels just enough off the surface they don't flatten on one side when the table's in one place for a long time, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Shall I move on?
No, actually, this is one of my pinch points that I wanted to ask for feedback on.
Okay.
This table, and we'll have another slide in just a minute that shows a close-up more of my forging and forming area, which is just behind it. This used to be my forging table. And it worked great. I had plenty of space for everything. When the enameling came on board, I thought, well, I need a safe place to put my antique kiln and all these other things. The only place I could come up with, because my brazing table was full of stuff already, was this steel table and moving them, as close together as I could. It is crowded. I don't like it. And I still have a couple of my forming tools on the opposite side, the hydraulic press and the rolling mill. I'm not sure where to go with this.
Is this for torch firing?
I'm sorry?
Is this torch fire enameling right here?
Yeah, I'm actually set up for both torch and kiln.
I see.
Looks like you just need another table for your forming stuff again.
For the second car part.
I mean, if you have the room.
Yeah, that's coming back to my car suddenly, living outside.
Well, how much forming work do you do? Have you deprioritized it because of your interest in enameling, or is it still an important part of your work?
Still an important part because the pieces I want to start doing are going to be incorporating the forming, the enameling, and the stones all into one.
And then over back on the wall next to the here, is that your polishing area, finishing area?
Not really. You are correct in seeing that there's a belt sander over there, and there is a little sandblaster and a couple other tools. That's a bench that I use not very often, which is why it's so far away.
Oh, okay.
I do most of my polishing and finishing at the bench.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I just couldn't tell quite what was over there, so trying to figure out what could what could
Mhm.
be moved.
Kristen, if you could go ahead, go forward one slide, and that'll be a closer look of that kind of forming area.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about this one. This is just my grinder and my hammers on the wall. Let's go ahead again. Yeah, that area. So I've got my anvils and my stumps and everything over here, and this has kind of become my forming area, but again, it's crowded.
I mean, it does
I don't
seem
know.
like
Isn't it supposed to be? So everything's within reach?
There is, yep, that's true.
Hey, you're not working in like a less than 10 by 10 foot space.
No.
I mean, the enameling stuff doesn't really need very much in the way of physical support. I mean, it's all fairly lightweight. It would seem like that might be a good candidate for another one of those rolling tool boxes.
To move the
Yeah.
kiln on top of one of those.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Absolutely, I
And then
agree.
you could move it close to a vent as well.
And get your forming table back. I mean, because that just looks like a lovely piece of gear to have for doing all of the sort of things you need to hit with a hammer.
Yeah, it is. It's great for that.
And if you had one of those rolly tool chests with the butcher block top, you could store all your enamels down in the drawers and all of your supplies, and just a thought.
I like the way you're going with that. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to look into that.
So
Excellent.
something along the lines of this thing on the left here, or
Yeah.
I might even go bigger. I might even go like the ones that are to the other side of those.
Yeah,
that.
like that.
Yeah.
One that size. Yes, exactly.
you could get one with a metal top rather than wood, so you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about the heat of the kiln. And
Yep.
You could also expand on either side just a little bit so you have room to put a kiln and you still have your area for your torch firing.
Yep.
Totally.
So you
On
make
this
the top
surface
just
here?
a little bit bigger, on either side, maybe 6, 8 inches on each side, if you have that, space to turn around in it.
Oh,
But you
so
have
you're saying like right on
person
this
who can
desk?
make
No,
everything for
we're
you.
talking on the steel
Ah.
steel workbench there and make it a rolling kiln station.
One of
Mhm.
the nice things about those workbenches is those toolboxes rather, is they can support a lot of weight.
Yeah.
You might want to consider making a top or having someone make a top for you, which is basically a band that holds a bunch of fire brick
Wow.
on top of almost any kind of surface at that point. It could be a little bit bigger than the top of the toolbox.
Yeah.
It'll keep all the fire brick together and give you a fireproof place to put a
Totally.
kiln and have your torch fired tripod and things like that.
Yes, I like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Workshopping it.
Yep.
Excellent.
This is
idea.
just
No pun
so
intended.
what is your most used station or item, or what can you point out here that you just adore?
By far, I guess after the most recent move, I'm still in love with this bench area.
The
This new one
the
here?
That
long
one,
bench.
yeah. That
Yeah.
Yeah.
over towards the right. I've got a couple of mats on the counter there, and that's where I'm able to do my design work. And I've got nice lighting in there. I can lay out my stones, draw, draft my heart's content, and then just step right to my bench. My bench pen, I love it.
It's great.
It's a great
Yeah.
space.
That looks beautiful.
And you've got a little dust catcher there
I
that you
do.
fashioned out of some sort of fabric, or yeah.
Yeah, it's just a little piece of vinyl, and it's
Mhm.
hooked up to hooks underneath, and then I wear a little lanyard around my neck and hook it up to the lanyard, and it works just fine.
Neat. Does anyone else have any questions for Cynthia before we move on?
Is your floor just concrete? I'm assuming it looks
Yep.
like it's just like the concrete.
Yeah,
Okay.
concrete. I've got rubber mats in a couple of places where I may stand for a long period of time, but for the most part, just concrete.
Definitely.
Mm.
That's cool.
Yeah, those cushy mats can really help, huh?
I just have to
Well,
ask,
thank you so much.
I have
Yeah.
one more
Thank you.
question.
Uh-huh.
So in the back left of this photo is one of those architectural paper drawers, the mini drawers. Yeah. Is
Yeah.
that where all your stones are? What do you
Yeah,
keep there?
Kristen, there may be another slide that shows those if you go forward a little bit. I think I just threw those in at the end just in case.
I can't recall how many slides there are. Oh, here
There
we
it
go.
There
is.
you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, those.
That's amazing.
Oh
The
my
wood,
gosh.
Wow, that's amazing.
So there are three sets of files there.
yeah, it's an old map drawer cabinet that I found at an antique store. And that's got all my stones in it.
I knew that.
And the metal one, I also got secondhand from a gentleman who was cleaning out his parents' shop. And it's an old catalog, card catalog, and I keep a lot of my wire in there, my silver one.
Nice.
Wow.
Oh
It's
my
like
gosh.
a candy shop, right? That's a whole like candy drawer there.
I'll say your storage system for stones is like at least an order of magnitude relative to mine. Well, your whole studio.
Exponentially.
Well, I think that's stones, and also my silver sheet is in there.
Yeah.
Is an
Yeah.
enviable storage system.
Yeah.
Everything about this is incredibly pro.
Oh, yes.
Amazing.
I have one more question now. To the right of that, is that the sandblaster?
Yeah. Little teeny sandblaster.
This thing?
Yeah.
Yep.
How'd you get that?
Oh dear. I think that was another one from he was a lapidary
Retired
artist.
jeweler. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, okay. So that would be something you would look for in the world of lapidary equipment.
I think it's both lapidary and you can also get them for jewelers as well.
Yeah, I just never seen one that
You
small.
may find something like that at like Harbor Freight. I don't know whether that one is that, but I've seen very small sandblasters like that in the Harbor Freight catalog.
Great, I will take a look. Thank you.
And it works slick. It's fantastic.
Amazing. You know, I think I saw something once where somebody just had like a fistful of sand and they slowly dropped it out of their hand onto an object, and that actually did some amount of sandblasting.
Wow. That's cool.
Just from
Anyway,
pouring
this
it out
is
of their
adorable.
hand?
Yeah,
That sounds
just
almost
gravity.
impossible.
It's probably not very effective, but you know, I love a good diminutive tool, but half the time they're just garbage. So it's good to know that this one is cute and it works well.
It works. Totally.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Cynthia, that's amazing. Your shop's fantastic.
It's a beautiful space to work.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Get ready for a contrast.
All right, Josh, we're ready to see it.
My eye doesn't know where to go when I look at your photos. It's just wondrous. All right, moving on.
I
to
love
Josh.
I love the list of things that Kristen came up with for me here, because I wouldn't have known what to say if you had actually asked this question.
There's probably a lot of things I didn't give you as options that you could probably list another 40 ways you use the space.
I started my shop with the true intention of being able to make anything. And I have, at least so far, been 90% successful in that. There are very few things I've run across that I haven't been able to do with the equipment that I have accumulated, which you are welcome to go forward. So the majority of the work that I do that's in the metalsmithing world is things like this. I'm not really a jeweler. I guess I kind of what you would call a silversmith, although these days I don't do much in silver just because silver.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
You're a
practice-
metalsmith.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been making these small sort of precious object boxes for a while in a variety of configurations. This one is in sterling. And I would say that some of the ways that I've come up with to make these things are a little bit less than traditional. And some of that is because I have been working with materials that are difficult to work with in traditional techniques.
Where are you located, Josh?
I'm in West Seattle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're local.
You and Preston work together?
So this is a piece, it's one of two. I'm still working on the second one that I am working on with Preston. Yeah. So Preston Singletary is a glass blower here in
Yes.
Seattle.
I've known him since he was a kid.
Oh, fantastic. I have the great fortune to have married his sister.
Nice.
Okay.
Wow.
I can't claim that he would have come across me in any other way, but as it turns
Doesn't
out,
matter. It worked out.
it worked out. Yes. So he had some ideas for a piece as part of a sort of story cycle that he was doing that he thought I might be able to help him with. And so we have been working on these things like this. So this is another sort of aspect of the work that I do. I do make sculpture on a fairly regular basis, not often like this. This is an
Amazing.
unusual thing, but I do use a lot of sort of found materials and found objects in the work that I do. And this one has just been so much fun to work on.
Josh,
Isn't that
Josh,
piece in the
what
show
was the
right?
size of the box that you made, the first one?
Oh, the little silver box. That's
Yeah.
2 inches. It's a 2 inch cube.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Nice.
Many of them, that's almost the largest that I make. Many of them are like 1 inch
Mhm.
cube. So yeah.
And then
And then
this
this
here
on the
is,
other end of the spectrum, this is about 2.5 feet by 1.5 feet. So
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
And isn't this on? Isn't there a show at Traver right now?
yes,
Preston,
this
that
piece is
Christine-
currently in a show at Traver. Correct.
And
oh, nice.
is this part of a laboratory piece? I
It
mean,
is actually titled Raven's Lab.
oh, okay.
And there's a long story that goes along with this, which I will not tell you.
Uh-huh.
But you are welcome to go to Traver and see all the rest of it and sort of read all of the parts of the story. It's really
Okay. Well, I'm a retired med tech and I recognize the base of the box.
Oh, that's
It-
Wow.
You can go to the Traver website and it has the whole story.
Okay.
yes.
Oh,
yeah, it does.
great.
You're right. I forgot about that. Okay.
So cool.
nice.
So I do kind of have a jeweler's bench, and I liked the idea also of a sort of butcher block top. So that's what this is. I am not really a neat person by proclivity, but I do like to have everything within arm's reach if I can. So I'm a big fan of pegboard. I
Yeah.
have long arms, so it gives me pretty long reach to grab things off the wall when I need them. I have a bad habit of accumulating lots of stuff, but I also tend to use a lot of it. So I do most of my traditional silversmithing work here, and it's just a bench.
It's a great space. All the cameras.
It's a lot of fun.
It's amazing.
You can skip there. Let's go to the next one there, Kristen. The rest of the shop is not so traditional. So it's a fairly big space. It's 24 feet by 24 feet. It's a 2-car garage. And I don't have to store any cars in it because that was one of the requirements of buying a house, was that I not have to put cars in the garage.
Nice.
And I have a lot of machine tools. So at some point in the past, I became fascinated with sort of machine shop technology, and I've been accumulating a lot of very big machines for a while. Many of them I've incorporated into the work that I do. Many of them I have just really because they're fun.
What's this one right here?
Yeah, what is that one in the back?
That's a thing called a surface grinder. When you buy a piece of jewelry making equipment like a disc cutter, or those nice little devices that you hold some tubing in when you're making hinges.
Yep.
Those things have that beautiful surface finish on them.
Yep.
That's done on that machine. So
Oh,
that
okay.
machine
Wow.
makes those beautiful ground finishes on hardened steel.
Wow.
And I do use it for tool making. So I make a lot of my own tools for making boxes. So I have sort of invented more or less some things that help me do what I do.
Cool.
Nice.
And that big
I think
table
I
in the
zoomed
mid-
in.
Zoom in on
Uh-huh,
that one
uh-huh.
because that's my favorite thing really in the shop, and it's a huge disc of steel. It's about 1.5 inches thick, and it's the best flat anvil you could hope for.
Ooh,
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
one, big.
And it
Yeah.
has lots of holes drilled in it, which means that you can clamp things down on it, which
Uh-huh.
is very nice.
Very.
So I have a couple rolling mills, which you probably won't even see in these pictures, but they're not on stands. I just put them on this table when I need them.
Mhm.
They're not nearly as big. so I can move them. But yeah, I love this thing.
What was the traditional use for this piece?
I don't know. Almost everything that you see in this garage was purchased off of Craigslist or various auctions or estate sales or a network of other crap hounds like myself.
Yeah.
Which is where this particular disc of steel came from. A friend of mine said,
It
"Hey,
looks like a big target that you really wouldn't want to shoot an arrow at.
yeah, it's a bulletproof target, is what it is. Yeah. This is taking a step sort of backwards from that table. This big thing that's in the left-hand side is a huge bandsaw, which is capable of cutting all the different kinds of metal you might want to cut.
Whoa.
And that disc that you see on there is great because it lists the cutting speeds. It's adjustable, so it lists all the cutting. And this is from the 1940s, so it has like asbestos tile, lead. All of these great things that you don't actually want to be cutting.
Yeah.
But they're listed on there should you need to. Yeah.
Wow.
We
amazing.
They don't make tools like they did back then.
No, they do not. This is in the foreground. There is my big machine lathe, and in the background is a milling machine. And I use those two machines almost daily when I'm working.
Wow.
I find that once I found that once I got them, I used them because the one in front makes things round, the one in back makes things square. And between those two pieces of technology, you can do all kinds of crazy forms. And oftentimes what I'll do is I'll make a quick tool or a jig that I need for some project that I'm working on, a box folding jig or a folding tool or something like that. Yeah.
Amazing. Just amazing. This makes me uncomfortable, this like pile of
I think there's probably a lot of things, if you were to come visit, that you would find maybe people who are sort of a little bit more concerned about their environmental cleanliness all the time with my garage.
And then you've got all of this glassware from Preston back here.
Yeah, that makes me uncomfortable, but there's nowhere else to put it. So
it's gorgeous.
Yeah. And those things are huge. I mean, those machines are just.
Look at that. You have a lab hood.
It's a kitchen hood that I got from the local architectural salvage store and mounted it on the wall of the garage with a tube going out the back. So.
Okay.
And a stolen sign right here.
He probably bought it.
He bought it at an antique store for sure, right?
The city of Seattle used to sell all of their reject road signs.
They did.
For like $5 a piece.
Oh man, that would
wow.
And Boeing Surplus. I don't know how old you are, but Boeing Surplus was a great place to get stuff.
Yep.
Was.
Yep.
And Second Use is a wonderful place for.
That's actually where the hood came from.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's great.
So this is my little soldering setup. To the bottom right there, you see I have a small oxyacetylene set and the little torch.
Little torch, yeah.
And I just bought an oxygen concentrator and a propane tank that I need to get set up so that I can. I've found that for the box soldering in particular, the little torch just doesn't really work very well for my needs.
Did you say you're going to, or you?
I think someone might have forgotten to mute themselves.
Was that a question?
I think someone was asking about the oxygen concentrator, possibly.
Yes.
But that's easy to set up for your little torch to replace your oxygen.
Yeah, I have the concentrator. I actually bought it from another guild person a while ago. It's just sitting there now, but I'm going to use it for an oxypropane setup.
Yeah.
So, but other
those
than that,
things kind of loud. Are they loud when they're generating?
That's not something that I have the luxury of being concerned about. It's pretty loud. Turn on any one of those machines and it's pretty loud.
I was
Uh-huh,
gonna say,
uh-huh.
that's probably the quietest thing that you
Yeah.
might have
Yeah.
oxygen
Do you wear ear
concentrator.
protection?
I'm sorry, the oxygen cut. No, that's not that loud.
No,
Yeah.
but do you wear ear protection for the other machines? The
What?
lathe?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not all the time, but there are some operations using the bandsaw in particular. That one makes a lot of noise. So, I don't know
So
if
I'm,
I have this. Okay, yeah.
here we
Here's sort
go.
of an overall shop
Oh God.
picture.
Wow.
You
Oh,
can see that I had to laugh when, I'm sorry, was it Cynthia who was showing her shop just
Uh-huh.
before this? Um,
Yes.
the amount of sort of room that she has around everything and the
Yeah.
very kind of conscientious organization. I don't have that. I will say that almost everything that you see here is either on wheels or can be moved with a pallet jack that I have hidden in a corner.
Oh, that's
So
great.
it's remarkably easy to reconfigure this for various kinds of work, you know. And I do some larger fabrication work at times, and most of what you see just sort of gets moved out to the sides to make more floor space. But yeah, it's a little different than many metalsmith studios, but it's also just served me really, really well.
It's a metals shop that you can do all kinds of stuff in.
yeah.
Yeah.
Besides
Yeah.
jewelry.
Yeah. And behind the back wall that we're looking at right now, the building, it's a big metal shed. It's like a pole barn, basically. And the building is 32 feet by 24 feet. And I built this box inside it and insulated it and put a heater in there so that I would have some heat, because otherwise there's no heat.
Yeah.
And behind that wall is cold storage. So there's another, what would that be? Another like 8 feet by 24 feet slice of shelving and storage back there. And it's full. So
That's where you
where a
keep
lot
all
of the
your
materials
gemstones,
and
right?
sort of stuff go. And there's a loft above this, which is also full. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Well, what a dream. And if I may also say, you had the opportunity to retire from your day job recently, and you spend a lot of time in here now, right?
This is where you will find me all the time. Yes.
That's
That's
great.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Great.
It's a lot of fun.
And do you also have a door that you open to enjoy the nice weather?
I have a door. I don't often open it just because I'm on an alley, and
Oh,
it's not a bad neighborhood, but
I-
it's not necessarily a
Mhm.
neighborhood where I want all my neighbors to know what's in the garage.
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
So yeah, there
That
are
makes
some
sense.
windows on the wall above my bench. There's a row of
Mhm.
high windows all the way up at ceiling
Nice.
height. If
Mhm.
I open those and I open the person door into the backyard, then I can get some ventilation. But yeah,
Nice.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
sharing. That
you,
was really
Josh.
cool.
Very cool.
fun to
Maybe
talk
we'll
about.
get to
Thank you.
visit in person sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
let's see. We've got Laney next.
That's me.
And you are in Olympia or near Olympia,
Well, I'm
right?
south of Olympia in Tenino, so I'm like 12
Tenino,
miles
thank you.
south.
Mm-hmm.
And most people go, "Where's that?" So I always just kind of say, "I live near Olympia." So,
Okay.
so yes, nice. That's a nice write-up. I appreciate that, Kristen. Thank you.
Okay.
I too,
So
if you would have
Laney is a
asked me,
member
I'd
of
be
our
like,
board.
oh. Anyway,
Yeah.
what?
Laney's a member of our board of directors, and I don't know, I'm always just so tickled to know that you support yourself through the work that you do here.
I do.
That's just really impressive.
Well,
Yeah.
let's preface that with my husband has a job and he works for the state. So he has really great insurance, which I get the benefit of. And so I'm very blessed
Mhm.
that I have him to have all the great benefits, which allows me to be a full-time jeweler.
Very good.
Nice.
So I have to give him some props because otherwise, it would be really hard to live on what I do make and have good insurance. the older I get.
Well, I've probably grabbed some things from your Instagram account in addition to what you'd given me. I can't recall, but hopefully this is okay to show a
No,
little
that's
bit of
fine. And
what
that,
you
I mean,
made.
like right
Uh-huh.
there, that's like my claim to fame.
Uh-huh.
My business tagline is girl with the saw, because sawing is like my bread and butter. I've been using the jeweler saw. So I've been a jeweler, metalsmith for 35 plus years. Every time I say that, it makes me go, oh my God, have I been doing this for 35 years? But the saw is like, that's my go-to. That's where I've made the most money, is doing hand piercing, which has afforded me to then be able to do what I really like to do, which is work with stones. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the piercing is really what makes me money. So this is my studio. This is outside. We built in 2019. We started building my studio in our backyard. Then the pandemic happened. We had poured the slab. Pandemic happened, and in April of 2020, we're like, well, crap. We don't have anything better to do. Let's get to work. So my husband and I, the only thing we didn't do is the electricity. He dug the trench for the electricity to attach it to the house. But otherwise, we built this ourselves, just us. And my son, he came down for a couple of weekends and helped. But it's a 14 by 9, just a shed. That's what we did, 119.5 feet. So we didn't have to get a permit at 120 square feet.
Ah.
And so the whole time we were building it, with pretty much anything, when it wasn't perfect, we would go, it's just a shed. It's just a shed, right? That's
Right.
kind of the
Right.
term, is it's just a shed, but it is like the best built shed going. So, and I love it. And you can see it's not quite as packed as Josh's, but it's pretty packed. So it's only 119 square feet. I have 3 jeweler's benches plus my enameling bench that's you see up in that back wall where the pink is. That was the bench that I used for the last like 25 years. It's a crafting table from Fred Meyer. I bought literally, it's like, well, it's my son's 28 and I bought it when he was like a year old. So it's probably 26, 27 years old. And that's what I used for my jeweler's bench until January of this year. I I collect jeweler's benches, and they were sitting in the garage. And I finally brought the bench that you see right here in the forefront. That's my main bench. I have another bench on the other side that will eventually be like my stone setting bench. And then I have, that's not in that picture, it's behind my front bench. That's my soldering station. I don't know, did I not put pictures of my soldering station? Yeah, because my soldering station's back behind. Maybe the very last picture, there's my soldering station back in that back corner. You can see my exhaust fan. So that's a really old watchmaker's bench that I've used as a soldering station for like at least 20 years.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's, yeah.
And I see you've got.
Is there a close-up of the enamels bench by chance?
Say that again.
Is there a close-up of the enamels bench by chance?
I don't think I did a great close-up. And right now it's covered with crap. Oh, there it is. Yes, there it is. Da-dun. So awesome. I do not have an exhaust system. What I do when I'm enameling, I wear
a ventilator.
Yeah, like
respirator.
Yes, a
respirator. Sorry,
but I also open that window and I turn on my exhaust fan, because my exhaust fan is pretty strong. It's an inline fan that, again, like Cynthia had, it's dryer vent that leads up and out of the ceiling, or not the ceiling, but the top of that taller wall. And I'm just, I'm super careful when I'm enameling. I only use unleaded. When I'm done, I wipe everything down with like a damp cloth. I'm super careful. I'm not that careful. I'm aware. But I could probably be more careful, but yeah. So, and I have my 2 rolling mills. I just got the wire rolling mill that's to the left. Have I used it yet? I have not used it. I bought it because of silver prices going up so much. I'm like, woo, I'm going to pour my own ingots and I'm going to roll my own wire. And then I poured some sheets, some ingots and rolled sheets. I'm like, that is a lot of freaking work.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot of work. So, I will still do it if I have to. Like
Wait, I
Cynthia, I
wrote
want
Laney.
to, what's that?
Your
Oh,
name says
that's
Laney.
totally all right.
Awesome.
I've been called worse. I've been called worse. What was I going to say? Oh, I just started doing enameling probably like 6 to 8 months ago, just kind of when silver started getting really stupid. Because I do sell my work. I sell every week at the Olympia Farmers Market. So I'm constantly having to make inventory. And when silver got so stupid, I was like, I can't. It's a lot of money. People stopped buying more expensive things. And I
So
decided
you work with copper quite a bit too.
I
Then.
do. I do copper. I enamel on copper.
What's this adorable kiln? I love it.
So it's the brand is Tabletop. It's like tabletopkilns.com or something. And my lady that I've taught for before, her brother was a dentist who was retiring, and he had bought 3 of these kilns for his dental office. It's brand new. He'd never used it, and when he retired, she gave it to me. So that's the kiln
Nice.
that I use. It's not very big. I think the inside chamber is like 4 by 6 by 6 maybe. It's awesome. It heats up really fast. It maintains its temperature pretty well, and it's been great, and I love it.
And what is this storage system?
So that's from IKEA. It's like
Oh,
a
nice.
little storage system I bought and had them delivered. I had it delivered. And all told, it cost me like $100 for all of that, the little shelves and the background and thing and whatnot. So soldering station, I use oxyacetylene, little tanks. I use a Smith little torch. I really want to get a bigger, like a Prestolite. I don't know if Prestolite is even still around, but I want just a acetylene ambient air torch. So I've been doing sand casting, but it's really not easy with the Smith little torch to melt
Yeah.
any amount of metal for sand casting. I can do it, but it's not super easy. So, yeah.
And you do that at this station?
Well, I was doing it, yes, but I have to kind of clean all that stuff up.
Yeah.
And I just did a huge rearrange of my studio in January. I guess I forgot to say that. I didn't have the 2 main benches in my studio. Yeah, those were not there. My big old bench that's now my enameling studio was lined up underneath the windows. And then I had the hydraulic press on a bigger table that was made from a big heavy duty door that also had my rolling mill. And I did sand casting on that, but it was a bigger door. We moved that big door out because it was huge. It took up way too much space. So the rearrange has been kind of hard to like get used to because I don't have a lot of space. You can see I don't have. That picture is a fisheye, so it makes it look way bigger than it is. There's not very much room in between all that stuff.
For your little torch, you might want to look into, they make something called a rosebud tip.
I did get that, and that made a huge difference.
Yeah.
Downfall is doing any kind of casting with I have a small acetylene tank, so it chews through it. So I think I need to get maybe bump up one size.
Yeah, I don't think a Prestolite is going to be that much better for casting.
You don't think so?
Right. Yeah, I mean the oxyacetylene system is a lot hotter than most of the Prestolites, which are
Yeah, I used a Prestolite years ago. That's why I'm like, I don't even know if that's even
They
still.
They still make them, but
yeah.
So wait, you said this is oxyacetylene or no?
Yeah, it is.
And what would you suggest, Josh, for
the same, but just a bigger, they make a different kind of tip for that same torch.
The rosebud tip.
Yeah, it's this.
But it burns through fuel at a tremendous rate.
Yeah. I know that tip.
Yeah, it really chews through the fuel for sure.
And acetylene is not cheap anymore. So
yeah, I just went and I have an argon, a oxygen and the acetylene. I went and got them filled 2 days ago. I was like, ouch.
Oh,
Yeah.
so what's the story with this magnifying setup?
So
Are you still
that's like,
getting that going?
I went to New Approach in 2015 and took their advanced stone setting, like week-long course, and got to use the scope. Came home and insisted I needed that. I had to have it. I had to have it. I had to have it. And I use it barely ever. It's really hard for me. I don't know. I'm farsighted. I cannot see up close very well because of all the up close work I've done forever. So I wear really strong readers, and the scope and readers don't work really well for me. I just struggle. It's just hard for me to use. So it sits there like a pretty trophy on that stone setting bench.
Well, you can sell that for a pretty penny.
I know I could, but then I'm like, then I'll want it. Anytime I sell a big tool that I barely ever use, then I'm like,
totally.
Every shop needs that piece of equipment, right? That thing you had to have that you almost never use, but you'll never sell. Yeah.
But I'll never sell. And I'll move it around and be like, oh, this thing's so big and cumbersome. And why do I keep this?
Yeah. Well, you should be able to get different eyepieces for it that you should be able to use without your readers on.
I mean, that would be ideal, because every time I sit down to use it, I'm like, oh, I use the scope because I need it to see closer. Then I get over there and I'm like, this just doesn't work right.
Yeah, because if the eyepieces are like 10x, you should be able to get 15x.
Yeah, because I wear, like, my readers are 3s, like 3 point. They're strong. Yeah. They're really strong.
Yeah.
That's good though. You're right. I didn't even think about that. I'll look at that.
You should talk to the rep at the scope company and tell them what trouble you're having, and they should be able to give you some recommendation and even send you trial eyepiece oculars.
That's fantastic.
That's great.
That's really,
that could be a game changer.
I've worked with microscopes forever. So
nice. Well, that's awesome.
Something should work.
Can I ask you a question about, do you guys tell your homeowners insurance people that you've got torches and tanks of gas?
I don't, since my studio is detached, I do have a rider with another, like I have insurance with another company for the studio.
Yeah, homeowners generally doesn't cover detached buildings ever.
Yeah.
And they don't even look when they're doing their
and I told my insurer when I had a home studio that I had an acetylene and air torch, and they're like, oh, that's fine.
Really? Like, wow.
Was your studio in the house? And you told them and they said it was fine?
Yeah, I don't remember who I was working with at that point, but yeah, I was shocked that I'm like, you don't care? They're like, we don't need to know anything. It's fine.
What I found out was from our insurance was that you can't have those 20-pound propane tanks in your house.
You're not even supposed to have them in the garage.
No, I don't have propane.
I mean, I have propane, but I just have the little small bottles, the little, that's like camper size.
Yeah, like the little camp size one.
Yeah, but I have bigger than that. I have the little.
The barbecue size?
No. You cannot have the barbecue size, but there's a smaller one than that, but bigger than the camping size. It's about
a 5 pound. Yeah, the 5 pound cans are the limit.
Yes. Yeah. And I have the 5 pound can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
But what you can do, which is why I haven't set mine up yet with the oxygen counters, you put it outside and you can just run a tube in.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, I know another member of the guild who does that.
But I've been quiet. I have not told mine, but I do so little. I'm just a hobbyist jeweler, so I do not do much. And I have a fire extinguisher right.
Oh yeah, me too.
Oh yeah,
a big one. And
Same. I'm a hobbyist, I should
and my
clarify.
whole torch setup is all fireproof all around it. And
Uh-huh.
I worked in a lab for so long, and I was the safety officer at Harvard
Oh my
Medical
gosh.
Center. So I think I know
Then
what I'm
you
doing.
know.
You know a little bit. Yeah, no doubt.
Thank you, Laney.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you so much, Laney.
Yeah, that was
Absolutely.
wonderful. I would love to have a detached studio.
Yeah, it's been really nice. Like especially
What a
because my
dream.
spouse started working from home during the pandemic
Uh-huh.
and he used to travel. So us being together 24/7 was like, oh, but once I had the studio, I'm like, okay, this will be okay.
How
Yeah.
how close is your husband from retiring?
Well, he probably still has like 12 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But because a state pension is also wonderful too.
Right, yeah. He was looking for, so he's an architect, but for this state, he does construction document review for medical buildings. And it's really boring, like super boring. And he's like, maybe I'll go back and get a job at a firm. I'm like, oh, please, please don't.
Well, if he's vested though, even if he's vested, he'll be
And
okay.
yeah, I think
because I was a state employee and even part-time I have a nice pension.
Yeah, there's definitely
nice.
benefits. So anyway, thanks so much for letting me share that.
Oh, that was wonderful. And how cool that you had the foresight to build that right before the pandemic.
It was right before building materials shot up. We really lucked out. We totally.
Yeah. So cool.
And
well, I
before
used to
all the
work out of a
tariffs too.
Say that again.
Before all the tariffs.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
For sure.
I used to work out of a back bedroom, and right before the pandemic, I just had this bizarre wish. I was like, I really want to just never leave the house. I just want to be able to stay home and work in my studio. And then I got my wish and I was like stir crazy and lonely and
totally.
Oh my God. So I was lucky to find this place, which is my collective in Georgetown, where I'm a hobbyist, but I have the opportunity to work with a lot of other artists around. I don't collaborate with anyone per se, but I guess one of the downsides is that we're upstairs, a long flight of stairs. If you've been to any of our holiday parties, we host them here or have, and unfortunately it's not accessible. But here's kind of a blurry overview of the space that a woman who is an architect runs her studio out of with some employees, and then the rest of us rent these studios.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really great. And then we've turned this back area, which used to be the architectural firm, they've scooted over into just a portion of the room. And this is a shared studio for artists who have memberships with us. So you can come in and spend just time making if you don't have a spot at home for that sort of thing.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So the other things that I love about my studio are just like the non-studio parts of it. Like we've got a gallery, and this is that shared space, and we have events and open mic nights and all kinds of stuff.
Very cool.
Nice. I'm right under the flight path at Boeing.
Nice.
Yeah, and these guys just graze the roof on a regular basis, which is funny. And then we're also right along the train tracks. There's a side rail, which is why we're called Side Rail Collective.
And you're right upstairs from a pizza place.
Yes, and an arcade. There's some pinball down there.
And
nice.
And almost across from the old Rainier Brewery.
Yeah, that's right. Where the Women's Shelter Jewelry Project often
That's
meets.
it. Yeah. That's me. So
yeah, nice. So this is my studio, and I think this might have been a while ago before it got loaded up with stuff. But anyway, it's great because during Art Walk, people come through, and I have this little area to the right where I can display things that are either just for show or for sale. And I guess there's some interesting things that I wanted to share here. Oh, one was this, I guess this window is blocking it. This is Alex Boyd's free download of his layout for a bench pin that I've used for mine, and I really enjoy it.
That is
yeah,
nice.
It's got all the little parts that you'd need for, holding a ring steady or some tubing or what have you. So I recommend you check that out if you're curious. This is my table that's kind of higher, so I stand at it while I'm soldering. And one of the things that I love, because I live about 20 minutes from here, I forgot to turn off the pickle pot once. And it occurred to me like pretty late at night. And I was just mortified. And I was like, did I burn the building down? So I love this little thing, which is my timer for my pickle pot now. When I turn it on, I just hit the 4-hour button or whatever it is, and I can feel confident that it's not going
to
stay on. I used to have a system where I told myself, like, if the light is on, then the pickle pot is on.
Yeah.
And it failed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that saved me.
I had the same system, Christen, when I was in the garage as my studio. And every time I turned on my pickle pot, it was on a power strip.
Yeah.
And the light was on. And then my husband, who is also a hobby mechanic, when I was gone out of town, he was out in the garage and he turned off the light and left the power strip on, and it was probably on for a good 2 weeks. And when I walked out and realized that he almost burned the house down. So yes, I do have a timer. I'm very glad
the timer's a savior.
Yeah.
Yes. This is another work surface that I have, my rolling mill and vise, and I haven't gotten to use my anvil much. It's pretty new. Ideally, I'd have it on a stump or some other spot. But one of the things that I love about this table, it's so silly. It's this strip of measuring tape along the front edge, which another member of the guild gave me. My friend Nancy Bonema gave me that, and I use it all the time.
No doubt. That's great.
That is great. Yeah.
I've got my shear, which I love and use a lot. If there's one thing I never want to do, it's saw a straight line. It's just super not fun. So I love having
You're not
that.
alone. I can't saw a straight line either.
I love this thing. It's weird. I think it's for like teachers, and it has these marbles in it. So it's like a gravity fed thing for holding whatever inspires me, and I can change things out really easily.
You just
it's got nothing to do with metalsmithing.
You just push the paper up in there and it stays?
Push the paper up, and it stays because these marbles are hanging out, holding it.
Oh, like ball bearings?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're just glass marbles.
I know someone who would really like that. I'm going to think about
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And then it has a little ledge on the top that you can stand things on too.
Is that made by IKEA?
No, you can search for this word STAS. I'm not sure what that stands for. And it comes in different lengths. But that's got nothing to do with my
no,
it's just
but it's
the
great
thing on the wall that I love.
But it's perfect.
Yeah. And I also love these shelves. So I got again, this is in the way. A little too much shouting out to Amazon here, but I found these steel shelves and these magnetic lights. So during Art Attack, I can show my work, and it's got some nice lighting.
Nice.
Yeah, that's worked out nicely.
It looks
Those
really
lights
nice.
the lights just come off, and I can charge them, and they're just like little boop.
Yep.
So that has worked well.
Pink cabinet on the left.
Oh my gosh, I love this cabinet. This is where I keep my secret stuff.
Nice.
Including, this was my filing system that I thought was pretty cool. It's not a giant map holder. It's these little binders, and I have a label maker, and I just keep my wire and I label it and order it, by weights and whatnot. And I've got bezel wire doing the same thing, and all my stones. That I came home from the Tucson Gem Show with COVID. So for 2 weeks, I was like in bed with all my stones.
Yeah.
The COVID part
And
sucks, but the stones in bed, that's nice.
it was so
Not too
silly. So
bad.
I got these baseball card holders and these like cards and some double stick tape. And I'm like, here's where I got it. Here's what I paid for it. And it's just such a great system to be able to pull out and, you know, keep things organized.
I've been using those 3-ring binders to store files, filing
Oh,
files,
wow.
you know. And if you
Really?
take a piece of corrugated cardboard, you can stand the files up in the corrugations. And of course, then you have to label the thing as very important files, you know, and it worked out perfectly. But yeah, it's there. I just a piece of corrugated cardboard cut off with the file stuck in it, and I glue that onto a a manila folder or something and clip it in the 3-ring binder. I love 3-ring binders. Yeah.
I do the same thing, only in a little metal cookie tin, and I've got the edges all pointed up, and I drop all my needle files in there. It's a really great storage.
Nice.
That sounds great.
Nice.
What a good tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I store my wire like that. I have a zip up binder and also my sheet, especially if I'm going to a class, you know, and I
Packing
want
it
to
for a
take
class
some
is always
wire and a sheet.
yeah. It's always a lot of work. So it's nice to be able to have those systems that you can take with you. So a lot of what I love about my studio, I've got some great tools and things, but it's the context and the little things that I figured out that make me happy. So thanks for taking a look.
It's a great spot, Christen.
It is.
Yeah, Christen, thanks for showing us. It's great to have that community right there too.
Yes, it's really nice to feel as though I have folks around who, are creative, and we're going to be building a stronger sense of community over the year, I think, too. More events where we share our work with one another and that sort of thing. So
And you put on some good shows. I know that they recently had a really nice show at the Collective.
Yeah,
which I got to go to. That was great. Yeah.
Yeah, Josh's wife had a piece in a recent show of ours here, and we've got a great little gallery. So if you're ever in Georgetown for Art Walk,
yeah, Georgetown's Art Walk is really nice, and all the galleries, you have Folk Gallery very close.
Yeah, right next door.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Well, let's see. Nina, are you willing to share your studio with us? I think
Totally.
I've grabbed some images from you and also maybe from your Instagram account as well. So
Okay. Yeah, I think that was my old Instagram that you just had there, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
What is the new one?
Seattle Jewelry Design and Repair.
Ah.
So I had the Seattle Jewelry Repair one for a little bit, but yeah, now I'm Seattle Jewelry Design and Repair. That's okay. So I am a full-time jeweler. I mostly specialize in repairs and I do some custom work. And I think I have the smallest studio out of everyone. It's about 100 square feet and I share the space. I have a room that's about 300 square feet, but I share it with 6 other artists and I have about 100 square feet of it.
Okay.
So it's a little small, but I love it. I'm super organized about it and I know where every single thing is. And I have pretty much everything I need. I wish I had more. Yeah, that's a fisheye lens view of like my whole studio, but it's a lot smaller than it looks in that picture. And I just put up all the pictures on the back wall, which look good and make it feel more like a little jewelry shop because I actually like see customers here and like fix. They come in, I fix their jewelry, they come pick it up, so they get to see the space and get to see where everything happens. Yeah, I'm in the middle of Capitol Hill, which is insane. The rent is crazy. I pay like $500 a month for about 100 square feet of space. But I make it work. And the goal is to move my studio into the basement of my house that my dad is currently remodeling so that I can have about twice as much space and parking. So that'll be nice.
Great.
And what area is that in?
the Central District, which is about a mile east of Capitol Hill. So this is my main bench. I built it with the help of my dad, and I do like all of my stone setting. I have my microscope. I have all my hand tools and like my flex shaft and stuff here. And you can see in the drawer pulled out behind my chair that I have all of my little burrs and rubber wheels and drill bits like meticulously organized because I do a lot of stone setting and I use those constantly. So I don't even have to look. I know where every single little thing is. And they all kind of are in their own little blocks and I can bring them out to my bench if I need them.
And you don't stab yourself when you grab them?
Not usually. Mostly I stab myself when I'm like engraving.
So you pull this block here over to do your work, or
yeah, I do that, but then also in the drawer behind my chair, all of those blocks of tools come out so I can, if I need to work with like just a set of drill bits, I can pull that out to make it easier.
But like what's holding your work?
Yeah, usually my little ball vise. I use that a lot.
The ball vise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cool. This little guy. And I have my like little ring clamp holder in there right now.
Oh wait, do you have the kind of why can't I remember what this object is called?
Microscope.
Microscope. That's a microscope. Do you have the kind that focuses in one space, or does it change where it? Like, isn't there one that doesn't really move?
It's super adjustable, so it pivots, it rotates, the head of it rotates. I can zoom up to 30 times and out to 5 times. I can adjust all the angles. It's very adjustable, and it has a built-in light, which is nice.
Nice.
And then this is the bench behind my main workbench. I also built this one. And this has my laser engraver, my magnetic tumbler, my ultrasonic, my ring stretcher, and my rolling mill, and then a bunch of storage underneath. And it's not a lot of space, but I can fit a lot of big tools on it. And these are like some of my most important tools. I don't have a lot of forming tools, but I have a lot of like polishing and like, I don't know, ring making tools.
And you showed us a piece at our last meetup of some engraving work you'd done. I thought it was so clever. She engraved with the laser engraver and then went over it with hand engraving, and it was just gorgeous.
Yes, I do both laser engraving and hand engraving. And the great thing about my studio, did I include a picture of the bench behind my main bench, my soldering bench?
Probably.
Okay, yeah.
That one?
So yeah, that one. So the traditional jeweler's bench I use for soldering, and I have like a ventilation air filter system. We don't have great ventilation down here, unfortunately. We're in a basement, no natural light, no windows, no ventilation. But I have my little it's Gold Vault air purifier that I have with a little hose coming up to my soldering station. And on that bench, I also have all my pliers and I have all my files and hammers in the drawers there. So I wish I had a whole wall full of hammers and pliers, but unfortunately I don't.
I don't see the ventilation you're talking about.
There's like a little hose coming from behind my little soldering block there. And the ventilation unit itself is on the floor that you can't really see.
Got it. Yeah, I forgot to mention mine. I have one of those Taco machines that's really for electronic soldering, I believe, but it's got a box that everything just sucks down into. Is that what this is?
Yeah, it has a box and it's like super powerful. When I turn it on, it's so loud. So I really only use it if I'm soldering or polishing or like doing stuff with chemicals. And then to the left of my soldering bench, you can also see my tanks. I have like little tanks down there.
Sorry, I'm trying to go to the photos that you shared instead of the ones that I pulled.
So that's my laser welder. It's to the left of my soldering bench. And I use that like constantly. So like basically I just sit in one place and I like spin around to all my different benches because they're all kind of, and so sometimes I have to get up and go to my other table. But mostly I just sit here and spin around. And It's pretty great. I also
close. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a small folding table that like I have my little light box on that I can do photography and paperwork if I need to sit somewhere that's not covered in dust. And then I have
and you have
another
a polishing station.
Yeah, I have a polishing station. And then I have another jeweler's bench that's actually my friend's bench, and he does work for me sometimes, but it's technically his little space. And yeah, that's my whole tiny studio.
Nina, what is that black box on the folding table?
That's my photo light box.
Ah, okay.
Nice.
Yes.
How long have you been in that space, Nina?
6 years.
Nice.
And she rents out all the other parts to other artists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find somebody? I know you were looking for.
Someone's actually coming by after this to check it out.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
So yeah, there's a spot available in my studio. It's about 80 square feet. The rent is $320 a month. If anyone knows anyone who's interested in renting out a space. It's a really cool Capitol Hill community though. And we do second Thursday art walks.
Nice.
And it's an awesome building. Like, yeah.
Yeah, your art walks, I think you've told me people don't come in here. There's more of a communal space, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't just like let anyone from the public come in here because we all have it's pretty packed, and I have all of my precious metals and stuff in here. So I just don't want people knowing where that is exactly, but we set up in the lobby out there and people come through.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you have clients like who need repair work, etc., you meet out in the common area?
No, I actually do meet in my studio, and I just kind of pull over a chair to my main bench. Yeah, like they have to have a reason to come in,
right?
And like I have to I let them into the front door, so I kind of vet them and make sure that they are who they say they are.
Of course, yeah, that's great.
Yeah, but art walk, you don't have people walking through.
Yeah. Nina has graciously done some wonderful repairs to some damaged Native American jewelry for the Women's Shelter Jewelry Project.
That's great.
She's done a couple bracelets and stuff that otherwise we would have had to scrap, and it just she did beautiful repairs with the laser welder that she has, and we need to find ways to thank her and reimburse her for her time.
No, I'm happy to do stuff like that.
We do have some things in mind, so and
oh my gosh,
we're
amazing.
We're keeping her in mind for future repairs for things that we find, special items only.
That's great. Well, I also want to mention that Nina is going to be hosting Metals Mixer at her studio.
Oh, wow.
And that'll be in July. And so when you RSVP to that, eventually we'll have information for you about the location of her studio, and you'll have a chance to see it in person. And I'm not sure if you have exactly planned what you want to do at that time, but it'll be cool to learn a little bit more about how repairs are done.
Exactly, but I think I can go over like how to resize a ring and how to fix a tiny chain.
Wow.
Yeah,
sounds great.
Yeah, it's pretty small, so we might need to cap it at like 6 or 7 people. We'll make it work.
Oh, well, we can
step one, buy a laser welder, right? That's
right.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. Step one, spend thousands of dollars. I also thank you, Nina, so much for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also wanted to mention some other events that we have coming up. You may have seen in our most recent newsletter that Lynn Hull and her husband are going to be selling a lot of the things from her studio. She's no longer able to work in her studio. And I think they're doing that as a fundraiser because she also, I've learned, needs some medical care. And so if you have an interest in some new tools that I'm sure are, well loved and high quality, and, supporting Lynn and her family, it might be a good opportunity to check this out. I understand the first day of the event will be dedicated to us. And so we'll have first dibs, and I'm not sure what she's selling. We'll probably have more information on that in the coming weeks.
Do you have a time frame?
You mean the time of day, or?
Yeah. Like, is it from 9 to 4, or yeah?
I don't know yet.
Have to talk to Dave, and
I'm not sure yet. But as soon as we have more information, we'll post it and let you know.
I'll also just say, if you're out and about buying tools on that day, the Seattle Community College Wood Technology Center. I don't know if you've heard of the Wood Technology Center.
Yeah.
They have an annual sale every year, and it's also on May 2nd.
They're doing a tool swap, right?
And swap is no. There said people with tables full of stuff for sale is what it is.
Nice.
Okay. And there's all kinds of tools for sale there, and I usually find something kind of interesting that I can use sometimes for doing metalsmithing, sometimes not. But
so is that at the central?
Yeah, it's in the central district. It's at the Wood Technology Center. It's at the WTC.
Okay. That's on 23rd, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Near Jackson.
Thanks for that.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then our next metals mixer will be in a month, and we're going to be getting together in Ballard. And I don't know, maybe we'll have more specifics on this, but we wanted to just think back about the first things that we did. Maybe that's the very first piece you made, or the first XYZ that you made. Maybe it's the first enameling thing you enameled when you've really gotten into enameling, right? Like you decide what we mean by firsts, but it could be a fun time to reflect on, what did we learn? What have we learned since then? No shame. Obviously, everyone starts somewhere. So it'll be fun to relate to one another on that topic, I think.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah. And then we've got Guildfest coming up at Pratt on June 20th. And we've decided that we'd like to have a theme this year around recycling of materials and also unconventional materials. So the idea is from scrap to substance. And there'll be different ways that we interpret that. We're still forming plans around the activities that day. We've talked about potentially doing some refining of scrap metal and making ingots and what have you. But we're still sorting that out with Pratt. If you have ideas for this theme and you want to have a demo or a small exhibition for the day, or a workshop kind of thing where people get to try something or what have you, like it's going to be members of the public, members of the guild, and it'll be a lot of fun. So we'd love to have your involvement if you've got some ideas.
I'm very sad. This is a topic, this is a theme that's near and dear to my heart, and I will not be in town, unfortunately.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
As soon as I saw this, I was like,
well, we'll miss you.
I have a crafty sale in my neighborhood on that day.
A crafty sale?
Well, yeah, the Mount Baker neighborhood has this strip called it's Hunter Boulevard, and it's a really great place to host a craft fair thing.
Oh, wait, is it the open green space?
Yeah, that open green space, and they just have makers on both sides and music, and they're trying to turn it into like a well attended craft fair,
a destination.
I think that time of year is so iffy. Last year it was raining and it was not very well attended. It's not very pleasant. But
well, I'm not going to be able to make it. I wish I could.
Well,
I'm going to be at this thing.
Yeah, I would honestly, I love Guildfest, so I'm bummed that I'm going to miss it too.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it should be fun. So save the date if you haven't already found a way to take advantage of a summer Saturday. Thank you, everybody who shared today. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
Yes.
This was really fun.
For organizing and making the whole presentation.
This was great.
Yeah.
A lot of good ideas.
I think anything short of being able to visit in person is, it's not the same, but it's still lovely that we're able to get together in this way and share and learn from each other. So thank you so much.
Definitely.
And thanks to everybody
right.
who, like opened their studios and showed us all their cool stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we'll get to see your studio next time.
Yeah.
I got lots going on in my studio, that's for sure.
That's okay. It's totally okay.
All right. Well, we'll see you again soon, and take care,
everybody.
everyone.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.